Are you fascinated yet skeptical about the metaphysical, the mystical, and everything in between? Do you struggle to understand how to stay spiritual in a physical world that's constantly challenging you? What about the thought that you chose to experience this life and the lessons you go through? Well, this just might be the podcast you're looking for. Thank you for tuning in to Intuitive WTF Podcast. I'm Aaron Hart, intuitive reader, energy healer, and past life enthusiast, providing you a place to challenge, question, and maybe even laugh at my perspective and your own about the connection between the human, spiritual, and metaphysical journeys. So let's tune in. All right. Hello, everyone. Aaron Hart here, giving another sneak peek of one of the talks that we're actually going to be having at our March 30th Spiritual WTF experience. Let's see. I'm trying to make Instagram listen to me, but I don't know if that's... There we go. I'm seeing it. It takes a minute. I have Hope Kimple here, is the certified intuitive life coach and intuitive healer with Hands of Hope Wellness. Is it Wellness Center?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Wellness Center. So we're actually here to talk about what she's actually going to be doing during one of our spiritual talks at the March 30th event, where she'll guide us through something called the Wheel of Life, which I'm not really sure what that is. So I'm gonna be learning as we're going here, and attendees will be able to kind of align better with their true self. So welcome, Hope. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Hi. Thanks, Aaron. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here. So I'm going to ask you the question I ask everybody. So what was your WTF moment that, brought you into the healing space, brought you into the Wheel of Life, and kind of just made you realize, I need to be a part of this. I need to, spread my positivity, spread my words across to everyone else.
I love this question. What the fuck moment happened back in 2013 when my really close friend and business partner passed away. I was in a place of grief. There were a lot of, big life changes were happening all around me. And then I was hit with this grief, and my gifts were sort of like overflowing and pushing their way out of me. And so I had, luckily through my mentor, direct me to an intuitive life coach who helped me through that process and also develop my psychic and intuitive gifts. And so it literally saved my life in a spiritual sense, as well as, in like an earthly sense. But yeah. And so
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's great. I think I have maybe a couple of people I would consider like teachers and guides, but I'm also stubborn. So hence, intuitive WTF, I tend to learn things the hard way. And that's how my lessons are with I'm blanking out on the phrase of it, but it's something like the lessons from life or the journey of life, something like that, where it kicks you in the butt.
Yes.
Awesome. So can you go ahead and explain, as I mentioned, I'm not too familiar with what the Wheel of Life is. So can you explain what that is and how that kind of helps us with personal growth?
The Wheel of Life is an exercise that I use with new clients who know that they want help. They feel stuck. They're at a crossroads, but they don't know where to begin. I'm not sure sort of where to focus that energy. And so the Wheel of Life is an exercise where we focus on about anywhere from 8 to 10 areas of our life. And it can be customizable to the situation, to the individual, whatever that looks like. But the exercise I'm going to bring on the 30th is sort of generalized, right? So, your relationships, your career, your finance, your, personal growth, your home environment, your family life, right? And you take a look at all the areas of your life, and you rate them on a scale of 1 to 10, right? 1 being completely empty, right? Nothing. And 10 being fully fulfilled, right? We do the exercise in a circle because at the end, then you connect the dots, right? To look at this, hopefully a wheel, right? So if the edges are smooth and round, well, it's a good indicator that there is some balance in the life. in your life, right? If your wheel looks like it'll move, but if there's some bumps in there, maybe some flat areas where the ratings are a little bit low, then it allows us the opportunity to sort of, okay, like here's some areas where there's not a lot of fulfillment, and gives us something to focus on, how to move forward.
That's awesome. Actually, I should have done something like that. As I mentioned, I was away for a few days. And
Yeah.
one of the goals with me being away, other than, in that transition between jobs, was I wanted to do something to kind of work on myself. And so one of the actions was I made myself sit there, and I've only did a few chapters, but there is this kind of like a self-help book. And
Mm-hmm.
I was making myself read down the answers, write down things just personal growth wise. So I wish we would have chatted about this probably last week. So then I would have known. That's pretty cool. Okay. So what are some areas like when you're doing this with people, what are some areas where people might feel a little bit unbalanced? Like what's the most common theme, if there are any common themes?
Yeah, no, there definitely is. There definitely are common themes. It's usually career, or relationships,
Yep.
or like family dynamics, maybe the loss of a parent, the loss of a loved one. Those are generally sort of the more common ones. But there's also like varying degrees. There will also be areas where they're like, well, I kind of had an idea that it might have been this, but I really didn't realize that over here my physical health was so low, right? So
Yeah.
it's also eye-opening to different areas that you may not have even had on your radar, but were very important, an important part of your life.
Oh, wow. And how many questions did you say this was?
Well, my exercise, I picked about 10. I picked 10 areas, like the 10
okay.
most common areas.
Oh, it's areas. So it's not even questions.
They're not questions.
Got it.
No,
Areas.
it's just
Okay.
this. It's
Never
just
mind.
a scale of from 1 to 10,
Got it.
and
Okay. I must have.
all of the areas are sort of mapped out like a pie chart.
Got it. Okay. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay. So I when you said it earlier, I heard questions and I was like, 10 questions. That's pretty good, but that makes sense. All right. So
No, certain areas, and I guide you through the exercise, right? I'll ask questions that help you with the self-reflection, right? And this is a great tool. This is just the beginning. This is just sort of putting a tangible number to something that you might not have been able to do on your own, right? Like, okay, I know I'm stuck in something, but I'm not sure in what. Okay, well, let's look at areas in your life that we can focus on. Okay, now, career is low. And then that gives me the opportunity to really ask the questions, with intuitive life coaching of like, maybe it's not so much the career, maybe it's the perspective of their own self-worth or a fear of change, or that there's something deeper going on, right? So that's the beauty of the wheel of life, is a great starting point to digging deeper, to looking below the surface as to, well, what blockages are there, within.
yeah, that actually, as we're talking about this, that would have been useful many years ago, because as you're talking, it reminded me of one of the struggles. Like I have plenty, but one of the big struggles that I experienced years ago was career. There was a point where actually it wasn't even working for about 2 years, and I was just so frustrated because I couldn't find a job that was fulfilling. And it wasn't until someone actually told me that you may not, like, for at least for me, it was like, intuitive guidance, where they said,
Right.
someone like you're not going to find, joy in your work, because you use work as a means to get where you need to be, pay bills, food, home, whatever. But they said, find your joy outside of it, find your joys, elsewhere. And
Right.
so when I kind of was able to process that, I was able to realize, okay, work is going to be work, and it's not always going to be enjoyable, but it's going to help me with, what we need to survive in modern culture. Whereas I'm going to find joy in exactly what we're doing here. I find joy in, helping and forming these spiritual events. And at the time, I was like learning intuitive readings. I was doing Reiki, and I, slowly found my crew. And, that's where I found joy, when we would do these events together and do little things, even just going on trips together. And I realized, okay, I don't need to find joy with work, but like to an extent. And then once I realized that, that's when all of a sudden, boom, I started having, work come and jobs. And as we just mentioned, I had opportunity that just was like mind boggling to me that I've never had. So, or multiple opportunities, I should say. So, I think, yeah, this actually sounds like it could be super useful for folks, at least to get the engine going, or what is it? The engine started.
Exactly. Yep, exactly. Just to even shine a light on yourself, right? I
Yeah.
mean, I was the first time I did the exercise, I was just like, oh my goodness, I was just like I had never, that just that lens perspective, that focus change, right, is
Yeah.
so it's so powerful, right? And
Yeah. And I remember when I heard this, and the moment that I was told that, all of a sudden I can just feel the shift in my body, because I was thinking, I don't have to find joy. But like, that's what we were told, that, growing up as a millennial, it's like, you go to college, you get your degree, you get X, Y, and Z, you're going to get everything you dreamt of. And then you realize you're going towards all these, and you're like, well, I don't know if that's even what I really want. That's,
right.
my dream was a little bit false, I guess you could say, to who I really am. So,
Yeah,
so
exactly.
I think things like this are super, super vital. So how does like intuition play into this when you're doing these exercises with people?
So intuition works both with me. So as an intuitive, as a psychic empath, because I'm so sensitive to energies, I can tell when the opportunity to dig a little bit deeper, when is the right time to challenge. Because a big part of what I do is meeting people where they are,
Mm-hmm.
right? I'm a guide, and I guide the horse to the water, but I don't force them to drink. I can't, right? They have to be ready. So I have to meet them where they're at, but I also have to know when they're contradicting themselves, when they're bullshitting themselves, as we all do, right? How, and challenge that, because in the discomfort, as I'm sure you've experienced, is where growth happens, and that's where transformation happens, right? And
Yeah.
a big part of the goals of the clients that come to me is to change behavior patterns, change how they cope, right? Being able to cope with emotions, um, and, you know, just trying to reconnect with their intuition. So that's another way that it works. So a big part of it is realizing that, we're all born with intuition. We all have this knowing, but like a muscle, it's not strengthened like our intellect is. And
Yeah.
so it gives, I create the space in order for them to sort of reconnect with that, tap into that, and strengthen it, right? So I do guided meditations, energy work. I include therapeutic body work. I make my own plant medicine massage salve to release pain, because pain is the number one thing that keeps us distracted from our center.
Yeah.
Right? Keeps us
Yes.
distracted from being our best selves. Because if we're in pain, that's all we're just trying to get by. And
Yeah.
really, the goal, right, is really to live fulfilling and live content, and live good, right? And so,
It's true.
and by having a balance, right, and being connected with the intuition, strengthening that, um, you have a nice balance in your life of intellect and intuition, and then you're able to make choices and change behaviors that fit your highest good.
That no, that totally makes sense. As you're talking about that, I'm thinking, because I was away for a few days, and it was more of like a mental reset. And I didn't have any, because as you're talking about pain, I didn't have any pain, because I've had some hip pain and some lower back pain, because I've injured myself moving some stuff out of the way.
Mm-hmm.
But thinking back to it, like, I actually feel stronger. I did go on a lot of walks and hikes,
Nice.
gentle ones, but I'm thinking, like, I was so relaxed when I was away, that like I didn't think of all the pain, and I actually felt more connected. Of course, I was, nobody was around, but I was talking to trees, I was talking to the water, and I was just
Right.
so I think that totally makes sense about as I was doing some inner work as well. But I would love to actually do this practice myself too, because it sounds like this
Yeah.
is exactly within my wheelhouse, pun intended a
Yeah.
little bit, but
Yeah.
so that would be pretty cool. In terms of like, so speaking of, in terms of like, putting that into practice, is there like
a simple exercise or something that people can do as a result of this? Actually, now I'm thinking about it, you may have mentioned that, but a simple practice that we could do that might take no more than a few minutes as we're maybe brushing our teeth, or like how could we do something to implement some of this wheel of life exercises?
Right. So the wheel of life exercise is really just, again, the starting point. The real
Right.
work comes in the after that, right?
Right.
Looking beyond the numbers and what do those numbers on that scale represent, right? And
Okay.
what does that person want that number to look like? Is that number okay where it's at? Or do they want that to change, right? So it's really individualized to the individual, right? That's what makes what I do different. Is I don't give advice. I don't tell people, what they should do. I listen to what they're telling me, what and help them find that within themselves, right?
Okay.
What it is that will fulfill or not fulfill. So really, if I'm to generalize, probably the one exercise that is the most generalized, the most common with all of my clients across the board, because they're varying, of course, right, is to and I actually got this from a really dear friend of mine, and it's to just be still. When the emotions and when the life seems chaotic or crazy, just be still and take a deep breath and notice.
That's hard.
It.
That's hard for me.
It's hard for everybody because we are sort of indoctrinated in this society to be productive, to do something, right? When really sometimes we just need to be still and breathe and notice. And then depending on what it is that person's goal from there is, will indicate what the action steps will be after.
That makes sense. But yeah, as I'm thinking about, that's hard for me. I'm a doer. Even like I said, I had to make myself sit there. I had to make myself read because I was like, I left here for this purpose. So that is hard, and I do need to sit still more. I remember I used to do it all the time, and I would just go and I would just sit at the park and I would read a book, or I just stare and just let my thoughts wander, and then all of a sudden you kind of get that moment of quiet. And then all of a sudden it's like, okay, I'm going to do this. And you feel good about it too. That was the one thing about this trip. I felt really good. So I like that. Be still. I need to put that on a picture frame and just like, put it in like the wall or on the wall.
And breathe.
And breathe.
And breathe. Be still and breathe. And just notice what does your body feel? What does the air feel like on your skin? What does your heartbeat feel like? What does your breath feel like? What is the emotion that you're feeling, right? And depending on the level or the intensity of that emotion, right? Because it could be grief, it could be anger, it could be love, it could be gratitude, right? Depending on the level of that emotion, number one, remember that just is a reminder that we are alive. We don't have to act or do anything with the emotion, but notice it and have gratitude that we're alive, right? That's life. Yes. That's a very human experience for us to just have the emotion. It's not going to last forever. It'll go away. This too shall pass, or, exactly. Enjoy it while it lasts, whatever that emotion is. Right. But I think a lot of us, and I'm guilty of it too, right, is reacting knee-jerk reactions to emotions. And those are the things that do harm. Those are the things that hurt people, that leads to a lot of suffering.
That's true. Someone commented that knitting is their ADD version of sitting still, which totally makes sense to me. I just responded because I just recently started doing like a pottery clay making class, and I'm there every Saturday. And if there's nobody else there, it's great. If there's people there, that's great. But I've realized that's, as they said, that is probably my version right now of sitting still. Just because it gets my hands moving and my brain's kind of like focused on like, how can I make this? And I'm not great at it at all, but I'm learning. It's been
whatever it is. We all have our own, whatever that looks like for us. And I love to hear when people have something, to be able to, or knitting, gardening, sewing, beading, whatever that looks like, or
Yeah.
baking or whatever, singing,
Yeah. I think
dancing,
that's great. That was my version of trying to because when I was a kid, my inner child, I liked doing things with my hands. Anything that would painting, drawing, playing with clay. I would we would even save the popsicle sticks, and I'd make like little boats and stuff and send it down the gutter. Things like that. So that was my way now of trying to acknowledge the little baby Aaron. So
I love that. I love that. That's great. That's so important.
yeah. So another question. So is considering like, was saying, all of the stuff I'm kind of working through internally, just trying to figure things out. Are there signs when you're working with someone that might show up that it's like time for a major life realignment?
Well, I think the fact that they are showing up is in itself that they're ready for some realignment. It takes a lot. It's a big step. It's usually something very big for when people come to me that they're dealing with, and they have no sense of control of it, and they really just want help. Right?
Got it.
And so even though I feel everyone could use it, right? It's not easy to take responsibility, right?
I was just going to ask, how many people come to you and then they're resistant to that change as well? Like they're like, I want help, but then they kind of like get in their own way still.
Those people aren't coming to me.
They're not. Okay, good.
People who are coming to me are like, they're ready to let go. They're ready to surrender. They're ready to do the work to make the change because they're ready to drink the water.
Yeah. I can relate to that. I'm ready to drink all the waters.
Yeah, because asking for help isn't easy to do. And especially in this sense, right, of I'm feeling so lost. What do I do? Right. That's not a question, people carry lightly or that's, whatever level they're dealing with. Yeah, that's hard. It's hard to do, but I'm always so excited when somebody's like, okay, I'm here, I'm ready. Let's help. Right. And then I go, okay.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I asked that too, because I noticed with my own self, I mean, there's nobody around me. I'm sitting in, my room and I was writing notes and I felt resistance to this. And I'm thinking, why do I feel the resistance? Like I'm working through, just trying to figure out some stuff. And, I've got to a point where I'm like, okay, I need to do some shifts and changes. So like, let me do it. And so I had to like sit there and make myself think and make myself, because I always want to do. And to me, that's sitting still. That's, challenging for me. So, so now that told me I need to make a practice of sitting still and even if I'm just reading a book, because even that's a lot, because I listen to audiobooks, but as I'm doing audiobooks, I'm cleaning the house, I'm playing with the dog, I'm driving somewhere, I'm doing multiple things. And now it's like, I brought books with me and I was reading these books and I was just sitting there and focusing on the book, which to me was like something I haven't done in maybe 6 or 7 years. That was really nice too. So I think, just shifts and changes, I think are as small as they can be, are successes.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's they awesome. Are.
Do you have any like success stories from, someone working with you with the Wheel of Life that you can share and talk about?
Well, yeah. So a client had a really low career, right? Which was not fulfilled in their career. And so I was able to help her sort of self-reflect onto, well, what would a fulfilling career look like or feel like? We did some guided meditations, really connected and discovered what her own limiting beliefs were, sort of, right? And it all sort of came down to a fear of being judged. And so she kept herself small, right? And once she was able to look at that, like, oh my gosh, that's what it is, she was able to change that lens, change that perspective, right? And speak her truth, stand in her authenticity, and do more within her job to be more fulfilled, right? She's joined writing the newsletter. She got into leadership, she started engaging more, and it wasn't just her job anymore, right? That number jumped from a 3 to an 8, right? Just
Wow.
with some self-reflection and finding sort of what her blockages were, right? We peeled back the layers of the onion to see like, well, what was really holding her back? And it was, fear of being judged. So she kept herself small and
Yeah. I
unseen. Yeah.
could definitely relate to that one. Being on
I
here
think
is
we all
actually
can, right?
yeah, like being on lives like this is actually conquering a fear, because I've never liked to be seen with work. I like to be behind the scenes. That's why I do events, because I can be like, I need to go do something else, take care of this, and that, and make sure this gets done, and then I'm like out. But now it's a whole different ballpark. So that totally,
Especially when it's your authentic self, right? Especially when
yeah,
it's who you really are, right? And you're showing people who you really are. And if there's trauma wounds or inner child, abandonment issues or fear of being judged, if there's that fear within us,
mm-hmm.
well, we're going to hide that or not expose that because we don't want to be hurt. And we're really hurting ourselves by not letting our light shine, right? To attract our tribe,
Agreed.
to be that lighthouse.
Yeah, and I yeah, totally agree with you. I think once I started to kind of come into my own, that's when I was saying I found my crew. Work started to come, things started to like blossom. Even now, it's like bigger, 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 and I'm still kind of. It's also a journey of figuring out who I am continuously, but
Always, yeah.
still growing and growing. And so the more you kind of own it, the more like magic happens, like legit magic happens, and
For
it's
real, right? The more you surrender to it and you just trust that, everything will be okay. Everything is going to be okay. And that's the beauty of this, right? We get so wrapped up in our emotions and how we're feeling, and those feelings can be really strong, they can be really powerful, and they can trigger us to get wrapped up in a cycle of behaviors that may not be serving us in our highest good, right? And
I've been there.
breaking those old behavior patterns into something more fitting, to our highest good is what I strive to help people find for themselves.
Yeah, no, that's much needed work, because trying to do this myself this week, again, and not a lot of work. I'm not saying I was doing miracles, but like just a little bit that I did, I'm like, it's just shocking that how much it's a challenge to do, and it's like hard work. It's not easy to take a look at yourself and just be like, okay, this is definitely not where I want to be. One, and then two, I need to make change, and I need to change the way I'm thinking and change the way that change the narrative I'm telling myself is the
Yeah.
hardest.
Exactly. And that's facing those limiting beliefs and facing those own messages that we sort of created for ourselves, not realizing just sort of the damage that it's ultimately doing.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Right there. 100%. 100%.
Yeah.
So how long would so when you're working with someone, it's, I know it's definitely not like one or two sessions. So like and I don't know, I know you can't really put a number, but like how long does someone work with you before they, start to really see the change within themselves and start to make the change, like, and that's really noticeable for them and brings them to a happy place?
Well, every session there is a few aha moments, at least two, right?
Right.
Where they have an aha moment. And it's sort of a lot of those aha moments that sort of add up. And with practice, and I offer accountability partnership, right? With all of my clients, it really depends on the individual and just how committed they are and how serious they are. They want to do this, right? I mean, I have clients who have been coming, it took me, gosh, I worked with my intuitive life coach up through, I went, and even when I was attended her intuitive life coaching certification school, like I was still working on myself. It's life, right? So I've got clients who've been coming to me for over 10 years. I have, new
Awesome.
clients, right, signing up for regular, because every session, like I said, there's that aha moment, and they come in and they leave not only feeling more into themselves and their authenticity, but also, grounded but lighter.
Right.
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 So
That's amazing. 10 years is great. It's like, as you're saying that, it's like, to me, that would be amazing to have someone that, that I can lean on to and just like be a mentor, guide in life, to just say like, and the thing is, it's also like, intuitive guidance and stuff, and like going with what, um, feels a little bit more, I guess, higher vibe, in my opinion, to
yeah,
than sometimes going to like, because it's like, in a way, you're kind of like, not saying you are, but it's similar to like therapy, right? It's, it's
it's different because therapy focuses on the past,
right.
right?
Oh, good point.
Sort of like the why. Whereas with what I do, I'm looking at where you're at now and where you want to go.
I love that. I didn't think about it that way.
Right.
That's so
And you mentioned mentor too. And it's the difference between what I do and what a mentor does is I don't share any of my life experiences or advice. I recognize and acknowledge that you are the expert in your own life. I'm only here to listen to what you're really telling me, what you want, where you want to go, and then I challenge you in a way that fits you, right? That works with you and meet you where you're at. But I also, because I'm a psychic empath, I can tell I know when I can push you a little bit further, a little bit more out into your discomfort zone to have those transformational moments, right? And so, yeah. So I'm not mentor. I'm not sharing that the individual, that you are the expert in your life. I'm just helping you find your answers within you, because you already know what you want and where you want to go. You know what feels good. You know what you're thinking. You know what you're feeling. I'm just there to listen and be curious, and then to challenge you once in a
got it.
while.
Yeah. That totally makes sense, because I definitely need to be challenged. Yeah, even with my own stuff. I like that. Okay.
We all do. Otherwise, we settle into the comfort zone, and when we're comfortable, there's not a lot of growth. There's not a lot of transformation happening in that, right?
Agreed.
It's when we're uncomfortable and when we look into that discomfort, we lean into it, we discover more about ourselves and our tolerance and, our resilience and where our power lies.
I love that. For our power,
Yeah.
yeah, for our power lies, our resilience, all of that.
Yes.
That
Yes.
totally makes sense, because I feel like this is all resonating with me right now. So this is great. I'm glad we had this chat, because I know we're coming up to time here, but that was very educational for me, and I felt like it vibed really well with literally the last, like, I literally got in like 3 hours ago, and so my mind is kind of buzzing. So that's amazing. And so we have your session on March 30th. Actually, I'm going to throw up let's see. Fancy. Oop. If anyone, I'm learning this new system, and I'm trying to make sure I get it working properly. But I was trying to throw up my events, but that's fine. We'll go ahead and keep our names up there. But just so that everybody knows, Hope will be speaking at the March 30th Spiritual WTF Experience, and that will be on, it's a Sunday. Her session is, I believe, don't have it up right now, but I'm saying it's at 1:00.
Yes.
And so I haven't looked at all the things yet, so I'm kind of just recalibrating. But 1:00, it's 30-minute session where you'll get to kind of experience the wheel of life yourself, as well as get some intuitive guidance from her. So do you want to? I'll go ahead and pass it to you, Hope. Do you want to let people know how they can go ahead and get a hold of you?
Yeah, you can connect with me at handsofhopewellnesscenter.com or follow me on Instagram at Hands of Hope Wellness Center 9, the number 9.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Well, thank you so much. And we had a few people actually in the chat kind of communicating a little bit. So if you saw me kind of laughing a little bit, it's because I glanced up some of the things.
Cute. Oh, I wish I could see it. That's cool. But
yeah, I'll figure out a way next time. I think we had a great conversation, so maybe I can bring you back in and I'll figure that out. I'm still learning all this tech stuff.
You're doing great. And thank you so much for all that you do and putting these events on and helping people like me get out to share my purpose and my message. So
Perfect. Thank you. Yeah, I look forward to it. I'm going to really try and sneak away to see if I can sit in on this one, because this is like feeling like it's right like in my wheelhouse, and it's resonating perfect with me. So hopefully can go ahead and do that. So again, thank you so much, Hope, and we will go ahead and see you on the 30th.
Yes, thanks, Aaron. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to Intuitive WTF Podcast. I hope today's episode brought about a new perspective, or at least made you question a current one. If you enjoyed this show, subscribe to this podcast now, and don't forget to rate and review. If you have any questions or would like to add your perspective to today's topic, feel free to reach out. Otherwise, join us next time for another round of laughs. I look forward to bringing you many more WTF moments, but until then, this is Aaron Hart asking you to stay in curiosity, be in the moment, and always ask yourself, what the fuck?